Vikes Now, Dustin Baker, the April 24th edition. I had the day off yesterday. It was my first time in a month granting myself a day off. It was my daughter's 11th birthday, and I can prove that shit because I have this tie-dye shirt on at her party per her request. We did tie-dye shirts. Evidently, I got a small version of one that I'll probably wear once and donate to her. But as a tribute to her, I told her I would wear this on the show this evening. So we are draft week. Boom, that's where we're at. And I owe it to you guys to formally offer my draft prediction, which I gave a humongous tip of the cap during the Aaron Rupert show. So to back all this up and set the table, I've talked about this several times on the show, but I have to reiterate it for anybody that's new. The element of unpredictability here for the Vikings is humongous, and I need you to keep that in your mind for a few reasons. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is new at this job. He's not new to football. Got the economics background, but he's been doing this football stuff since 2013, mostly with the San Francisco 49ers. Pivoted to the Browns, Andrew Berry and the like, and then bada bing, he's a Viking. But this is his first time doing this in the big recliner, making the choices, being the head guy. So maybe he's just a guy that loves to draft wide receivers. Maybe he doesn't really think Cousins is that good and is going to hedge the bet and get Malik Willis. While those things for us would be shocking because we forecasted this and you've read everything for 3 months, to him, everything is new. And therefore, if he gets Tyler Linderbaum with the 12th pick, yeah, you're going to be like, what? But for him, it could have been the plan all along. So I need you to remember the element of unpredictability here because you have a first-time man on the job, and we don't know any of his tells. You know, he's the almighty poker player right now. We have no idea if he's what he does, what he likes. All we know is he likes value. That's the hint that he always gives. Another thing that has come up since we last talked, arguably throughout the last week, is this idea of trading up. I believe it was popularized by Paul Allen of K-Fan, the voice of the Vikings. I think on a couple different occasions on his show and then on the Vikings Twitter account, he suggests that's in play. And I flat out don't believe that. I mean, it's possible. Just like I gave that speech about unpredictability, it could happen, you know, if he loved Sauce Gardner or something like that. But for a guy that preaches value, as this general manager does, trading up is the antithesis of that. Unless he just knows one of these guys is Aaron Donald-ish, then of course you do that. But every draft is a gamble, and I really don't see him trading up. It's like if you go to that candy store on 169 when you're heading to a Vikings game or headed to Minneapolis in general, or in my case, headed back after a game. If you went there and somebody you were with, or if you were a kid, and somebody said you can have a king-size Snicker bar, but then the trade is 3 regular-size Reese's packages. Like, that's what I think of when I think of trading up in the draft. I love Reese's. I even have a Reese's shirt that I'll wear on here at some point. But that's what I think of is like, why on earth would I take a king-size Snickers bar when I could have 3 Reese's? And that's the way that I think about this trading up little analogy or parable. I just don't see him doing it. So if he does, I will be wrong, and I'll take the heat for it. But trading down is actually my prediction. So, no further ado, my prediction for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in year number 1 as the boss man of the Minnesota Vikings is that Ahmad Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley will not be in play with the 12th pick. They're too good. However, Minnesota still needs a cornerback for long-term planning purposes. Free agency next year, Cameron Dantzler is the only startable cornerback under contract right now. That's not good. Not good at all. Unless Harrison Hand or Nate Harrison become the next big thing, then you need to plan for the future vis-a-vis a draft. So I believe the Vikings will trade out of the 12th pick with the Steelers or the Saints or the Chargers or the Chiefs. If you want to pin me down to one, I'll say the Steelers. And they go back to, in that case, the 20th spot. And they draft, ultimately, I believe they will find a way to draft Trent McDuffie. The dude has 2 short arms to be any good. He's got all the dazzling numbers collegiately, but his arms are suspect for some of yous. But, he's supposed to be the 3rd best corner because Sauce and Sting won't be there. I ultimately believe, based on some of the chatter that I've heard and some of it that I've read, that they do like him, and I will formally predict that McDuffie ends up with the Vikings vis-a-vis a trade back. If that is wrong, perhaps it could be Andrew Booth Jr. as the target at the cornerback. But I do believe it will be a cornerback, and trust me, I've thought about this shit ad nauseum way too much. Not healthy to think about it this much for a game where the objective is putting football places. But that is my prediction. My projection is that the Vikings select a cornerback, Trent McDuffie, in round 1. I believe they'll get an extra piece of draft capital in round 2. And so they'll have 2 second-rounders, and I think they'll use that on an edge rusher, a linebacker, perhaps a wide receiver, because we had the chat about how dazzling wide receivers are in the second round per recent history. So, yes, the trade back, adding assets in the second round. Hopefully, if they do trade back, and it's not with the Chiefs, where you could get 2 first-rounders, that they would accrue a second-rounder, because then is it really worth it? Last year was cool because they got a bunch of third-rounders, but let's get in the mix for second-rounders. I plain and simple think Derek Stingley Jr. is too good. And there was a Matt Miller tweet, ESPN Draft Scout, Friday, that said now his bottom floor for being drafted is the Seahawks. So and that's at number 9. So I believe that, I think that's true. The guy so dazzling to these draft scouts and these front offices that I don't think he'll be there, and the Matt Miller tweet simply enhances that belief. So yeah, this is the grand culmination of all of the draft puzzle that has come together in the last, God, how many months have you been studying it? Since December. And I'm always interested how the NFL draft puzzle comes together in general. It's almost more exciting to see that than who the Vikings pick, because you're going to love no matter who it is they pick, as long as it's not something moronic like the Raiders would do. You're going to fall in love and tell yourself the guy's good, because that's what we do. But I'm more excited to see the puzzle come together, whether it's the first, second, third pick, what's the first trade, what did the Texans do at 3? And I hope you'll join me in that sentiment, because that's what makes this time of year really fun. And maybe there'll be a bonanza of trade backs by Kwesi. I wanted to pay homage to some of you guys and gals that do those mock drafts on PFF or PFN, or I think Draft Network has one, where you post it on Twitter, and then it's just this barrage of trade downs, and that they have like 6 picks by the time the third round rolls around. Maybe he does that. Maybe it'll be that wild that he'll just accumulate all of this value, taking swings and misses, that you just have multiple reasonably high first-round picks. But to reiterate, I got Trent McDuffie from Washington joining the Vikings via trade back. If I'm wrong, totally own it. This thing is a crapshoot to predict anyhow. I was really leaning towards Stingley, putting my stamp on that, but I just don't think he's going to be there. I've been convinced by credible brains that do this stuff that he ain't going to be there for the purple team. This week, the guests are going to be pretty cool. Let's see. Tomorrow, it'll be Justin Ekstrom. You'll probably know him from Vikings Twitter. I believe he does a show, KNSI in Minnesota. I was on that show on Saturday. That was pretty sweet. A rapper, Loso, is going to be on Tuesday. He's an elite Vikings mind. I engage with him quite frequently. And finally, Luke Braun. He was another one that came up like Nick Olson did from Joe Johnson, my fallen predecessor at Vikings territory. And yeah, now all of us dudes get to share this space and write Viking stuff. So, all in the same vein. I'm talking to these dudes about the draft, perhaps some of their insights about the roster. But I do got Justin Ekstrom, Loso, and Luke Braun coming up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then for the draft, in the immediate aftermath of the draft, you got me, singularly, so we can break down just what in the hell they did. I will talk to you guys soon. Justin will join Dustin on Monday, and that should publish around noon or so. All I got for Sunday, Skol, baby.